Hello students, welcome to week 2 for Journ 320 Media Ethics and Law. This week we are going over a number of things that are related to strategic communication and loyalty that pertain to the practice of media ethics. If you take a look at the week 2 agenda, you'll see that we're reading chapters 3 and 4. Your discussion board number 2 has 2 deadlines. Your original post, your answers are due on Friday with the reply post due on Sunday. You'll be looking at chapters 1 through 4 for that assignment. Reading assignment number 2 is due on Sunday, as well as case study number 2. Discussion number 2 asks students to look through the readings of chapters 1 through 4 that we will have finished by the end of this week and find at least one article online, so do an internet search, that addresses each of the following legal and ethical issues: a violation of the PRSA Code of Ethics and a conflict of interest. Remember, this should be about 200 to 300 words, and it's due on Friday with replies due on Sunday. So when I refer to the PRSA Code of Ethics, you can Google this yourself and find it on the PRSA website. Here's a copy of it for your review. You'll need to pick one of these one of the aspects of the code, so either advocacy, honesty, expertise, independence, loyalty, and fairness, and then select the idea of a conflict of interest and find an article that relates to one of those things, both of those things, and reflect upon it and provide a discussion related to those legal and ethical issues. So to recap, you will be writing a reflection on one of the code's provisions of the Code of Ethics, as well as conflicts of interest, and finding an article that relates to both of those online in that type of situation within media ethics. Writing assignment number 2 asks you to read case study 4A in the Patterson text. It's located on page 104 to 106. It pertains to Twitter and the use of social media, and you'll be answering all of the questions listed below in at least 500 words. So to clarify, a micro issue is looking at the smaller internal issue with the case study. A mid-range is looking at how severe the scope would be from more of a middle perspective, and macro is the big picture. So each of these questions here, I'm asking you and I'm looking for you to answer them and helping you determine how you would solve or wrestle with the ideas presented within this case study for this writing assignment. You'll have noticed by now that writing assignments that have case studies are related more towards some media journalistic communication perspectives, and then the case studies are related to PR and strategic communication perspectives. So that's the writing assignment number 2, and it should be about 500 words. Case study number 2 asks you to look at a prompt related to representing front groups with undisclosed sponsors and the engagement of deceptive practices while representing them. Particularly, this is you are pretending that you are working for an agency that has been a PR agency or communication agency that has been retained by a rail manufacturer, so a railroad manufacturer and subway car manufacturer. So you are doing the PR for them, and among several of the strategies, the agency is responsible for organizing and managing citizen groups to influence the funding and political decision-making process for the rail cars. The client obviously does not want to be identified. So as the funder of the Citizens Advocating for Affordable Transit, the CAT group. So a reporter who covers transit approaches you at a CAT meeting and asks you if one of your clients is backing CAT, and the identity of that client. You have a good and trusted relationship with this reporter. However, your boss has told you and you've signed a non-disclosure stating that you will lose the client and its association with CAT if it's publicly disclosed. So what do? So remember, you are working at this communication or PR agency, and you're representing a rail car and a subway manufacturer. They are funding the group CAT to promote the use of public transit, but they don't want to be disclosed. They're a silent funder. You know that, but you have been asked who is funding this, and so now you have the ethical decision to make about disclosing or not disclosing. So in that, you'll answer the 6 questions listed below. When you'll identify the ethical situation, you'll determine internal and external factors. Remember, internal factors are factors that will affect the internal aspects of your agency and your relationships with both groups. External factors is everything outside of that. So what is the public perception? Key values pertain to either the PRSA Code of Ethics, personal moral values you have, or anything related to that. You will consider the parties who will be affected by the decision. So, is your agency affected? Is the rail car manufacturer affected? Is CAT affected? Who's affected by that? And then you'll look at principles to guide your decision-making process. You can find ethical principles within the text and also within this lecture, and then you'll make a decision to do that. The whole entire thing should be maybe 400 to 700 words. I know Blackboard said 750. As long as you're hovering in that area there and you've thoroughly answered each of the 6 questions, you will be fine. But that's what it's looking at. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm more than willing to meet with you on anything that you may have a question with. Looking at ethical principles this week, I'm going to provide you with some clarity and explanation on CAT's categorical imperative. You'll see that CAT's categorical imperative stems from ontological and epistemological influences within philosophy. Ontology or ontological influences deals with the nature of reality and what we perceive to be reality. Epistemology or epistemological influences deals with our source of knowledge and truth and what we believe to determine how we gain knowledge and such. So Kant's categorical imperative was developed by Immanuel Kant, and he determined that there is a moral obligation to the notion that right actions are those that practical reason will rule as universal law. So this theory is deontological in nature, meaning that it considers actions are morally right and virtue of their motives. Motives are derived from more from duty than inclination. So the primary argument, according to Kant, is that duty is the necessity to act out of the reverence for the law. So if we have a moral obligation to do something that we know is unlawful, as long as it's the right action and practical reason would rule this as being universally right, it is okay. So Kant's main idea is in the argument of self-defense. You kill someone in self-defense, we know that killing or murdering somebody is unlawful under a number of situations besides just law, the law of the land. However, if there's a moral obligation to defend yourself and you can argue that, then you can argue that the crime is not punishable or the act was morally right in terms of defending yourself for whatever reason. So the moral agent of virtue, according to Kant, applies universally of the virtue that every time we act as a moral agent. And is this okay for universal law? Kant's categorical imperative, some quotes: act only according to the maxim whereby you at the same time will that it should become a universally law. Really, each individual agent regards itself as determining by its decision to act in a certain way that everyone, including yourself, will act according to that same general rule in the future. So are you willing to rationalize your action for the good of the human population? That's the idea of Kant, is the action we're doing, regardless of it being a right or wrong according to society and societal law, determine that is okay. To look at this a little further, we'll look at these graphics here, analyzing and highlighting some perspectives from Kant. So if we look at action being honest, we can go 2 directions. This is the right way to behave and what the results will be. Your moral duty or intention. Your ego intention, meaning your ego and your perception to society. I will benefit from doing this. I won't benefit from doing this. And then your consequences of actions. You have to determine if being honest is the benefit, is the result, is the benefit for society and becoming universal law. We are to act so that we treat humanity, whether in your own person of that and another, will always never as a means only. So you look at your action. What is the maxim? Can it be universalized? Yes or no? And we look at maxim, not a duty. Action's not moral. Rather, is action becoming moral? So if the action can be universalized across society and humanity, then the duty action is moral. And that's important to keep in mind. Communication privacy management theory also plays a huge role in the case study number 2 this week. So communication privacy management derives from the idea of social penetration theory, where we have layers that we pull back and things of that nature. It considers that the everyday decisions we make about how much we disclose to others and keep private really depends on how well we know that person and how much trust has been built. We analyze discourse through risks and rewards, and so with this, it's a rules-based theory. You could use this to support your ideas for case study number 2. If you have trust and you know that the reporter will not report it, you can argue communication privacy management theory can play a role in that. It's very important to keep that in mind. If you have any questions, let me know. To recap, we are working on discussion board number 2, which is due Friday and Sunday. Writing assignment number 2 is due Sunday, and case study number 2 is due Sunday. If you have any questions, let me know. I look forward to working with you this week. God bless.